along the supply curve. The supply curve in economics also exhibits the movement along the curve. Movement along the supply curve is a graphical representation of alternation in goods and services supply on account of its price when all other factors remains constant. If there is price change, the supply also changes. The movement will be from point to another point on the same supply curve. It could be an upward shift or it could be an upward or downward movement which happens in the movement in the supply curve. When we are talking about extension of supply here, you will see when the quantity supplied of commodity increases with the rise in the price, it is referred to as an upward movement or extension of supply. So let's say the quantity supplied in units is 5 and 10 at price 10 and 20. So you will notice that if you plot it in the graph, in the y-axis it would be price and in the x-axis it would be quantity supplied. In this scenario, there would be an upward movement which would be seen, hence extension of supply. Contraction of supply occurs when the supply or the quantity supplied of a commodity decreases with the fall in its price. That time the contraction of supply happens. Suppose let's say 10 units of a commodity is supplied at price 20 and 5 units of a quantity is supplied at price 10. So in that scenario, there is a downward sloping trend which is seen, which can be referred as contraction of supply. Always remember, in the y-axis we take price and in the x-axis we take quantity supplied. Now since we have seen the meaning of what exactly expansion of supply and contraction of supply is, so let's just summarize the difference between expansion of supply and contraction of supply. Expansion of supply refers to the rise in the quantity supplied of commodity only due to its price, whereas contraction of supply refers to the fall in the quantity of supplied of any goods or commodity due to the fall in its price. Extension in supply takes place only due to rise in the price. All other factors are constant and have no effect on the supply of commodity. By this time, I am sure you must be knowing what are the other factors we are talking about. Other factors are all the factors apart from the price would be referred as an other factors, and we have discussed all these factors in details in our previous sessions. Contraction takes place only due to the fall in the price. All other factors are constant and have no effect on the supply of commodity. Extension of supply basically shown by an upward movement along the same supply curve, whereas contraction of supply shows a downward trend or the downward movement along the supply curve. So with this, you must be clear as to what is extension of supply or upward movement in supply or contraction in supply, or in other words downward movement along the supply curve. Coming to the shift in the supply curve, the factors other than price affect the supply curve in different manner. These factor causes the supply curve should shift either towards right or left. So it could be a leftward shift or it could be a rightward shift. Let's talk about rightward shift first. When the supply of commodity increases but its price remains same, there is a rightward shift. Why do you think could be the reasons for this rightward shift? It could be due to improved technology, reduction in the price factors of production, price of the related goods decreases, decrease in taxation or grant of subsidies. These may be some of the probable factor that is leading to the rightward shift in the supply curve. Let's say if the price is 20 and at 20 price I am supplying 20 units of a commodity, and then I have increased to 30 units of a commodity at price 20 at the same price. So in these cases, if you notice, the price remains same, but there is shift in the supply curve. That means the quantity is changing by 20 to 30. And I told you what are the reasons. It could be the improved technology and hence you are able to produce more of a commodity, or it could be some decrease in the taxation policy or granting of subsidies have come, and that has impacted the quantity supplied in the market at the same time. Or it could be the price of the related goods decreases, and hence that would have been the factor which have caused the rightward shift to happen in the supply curve. When we are talking about leftward shift in the supply curve, it occurs when the quantity of supplied commodity decreases at the same price. Now let's say at price 10 the quantity supplied was 20 and then it came down to 10 units. Why do you think, or what could be the reason for this leftward shift here? Reasons could be any. It could be use of old outdated technology, or due to increase in tax rates, or it could be increase in cost of production, or it could be unfavorable weather condition. Many factors could be there which would lead to leftward shift in the supply curve. Hence you can say that whenever we plot these kind of graphs, the leftward movement or the graphical presentation also shows that with the fall in the price, the firm tend to make less revenue, which automatically contracts supply. In this case, the movement becomes evident by movement from right side point to left side point on the given supply curve. Supply curve would shift to the right hand side as well depending on the scenario. For instance, if a change in cost, the supply curve would shift the position. With the rise in cost, production becomes less at the given price, the supply curve shift to the left. Isn't it in this particular case? Hence, the decrease in the cost means that there can be more productivity which will result in right side shift in the supply curve. We have seen the shift and the movement in the supply curve. An important aspect at this stage we are going to discuss is about market equilibrium. Since at this point of time I am sure you would know what is demand and what is supply, and we have also seen what are the significance of demand and supply, that how it contributes to an economy and how price determination is done with the interaction of demand and supply. In economics, an equilibrium is a situation in which quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. It refers to the condition where a market price is established through competition such that the amount of goods or services sought by the buyers is equal to the amount of goods and services which are produced by the seller. Now in this particular case, what is happening? The demand, the quantity demanded at that price and the quantity supplied at that price would be equal. So let's say QDP is the quantity demanded at price P and QSP is the quantity supplied as price P. Hence, the equilibrium, equi is what? Is equal, equi itself means equal, hence price of the demand of the goods and the supply of the goods being equal in nature. So basically, equilibrium is achieved at the price at which quantities demanded and supplied are equal. We can represent a market in equilibrium in a graph by showing the combined price and quantity at which the supply and demand curve intersect. For example, let's imagine the seller of X product are willing to sell 500 units of X product at price 5. per can. So if the product are willing to buy, or if the buyers are willing to buy 500 units of X good at that price, this market would be an equilibrium at a price 5, since it is equal. The demand and the supply for that commodity X is equal in nature at that particular price, that is 5. I hope this clarifies it. Market equilibrium is thus a phenomenon that rarely happens, since it considers a standard that the economy aspires to reach. However, a general equilibrium can be reached when the prices are almost near the index, and index is a level or price range to be reached. This calculated price is the actual equilibrium price based on demand and supply function. But mostly there is only a partial equilibrium in an economy. Since there are monopolistic markets, sometimes equilibrium can also be faked to make a profit. For example, say a product is sold only by a single company. They can manipulate the supply to increase the price they sell. Now let's see a graphical representation of the concept of equilibrium. So if you notice it here, the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied is same when we are seeing the prices and the quantity being equal in nature. So if you notice at price 3, the quantity demanded is 30 and the quantity supplied is 30. So in this scenario, it is called as an equilibrium condition. Equilibrium is achieved at the price at which the quantity demanded and supply is equal. Hence, we can represent a market in equilibrium in a graph by showing the combined price and quantity at which the supply and demand curves intersect. How does a market equilibrium work? Supply and demand are equal in the market where equilibrium is reached. But this phenomenon is highly theoretical, since there is a rare chance in the market to reach such an equilibrium. The market can only hope to achieve an almost equilibrium or reach around the equilibrium price. A product supply rises as producers produce more of it to offer in the market, which lead to decline in the demand. This means that there aren't many buyers in the market to buy the excess supply. Producers decide to sell the price so that the price can buy at a lower price. Therefore, this whole thing means that when the supply increases, the price decreases. What about disequilibrium? Since we have seen what is equilibrium, I am sure you must be able to know what is a disequilibrium. Disequilibrium is whenever market experience imbalances, creating disequilibrium, prices, surplus and shortages, the market forces drive prices towards equilibrium. A surplus exists when the price is above equilibrium, and that would encourage the seller to lower their price in order to eliminate the supply. The shortages will exist in any below condition. So let's say a shortage will exist at any price which is below the equilibrium, which lead to the price of goods increasing. There are various factors that can affect market equilibrium, such as excess demand, excess supply, changes in both demand and supply, or other competitive factors. We will see how shift in the market equilibrium takes place. So in this graphical representation, you would see that there is price and demand which is plotted, wherein you will see a shift in the supply curve or demand curve also shifts the equilibrium point. Shift in the demand curve, in the figure, the initial equilibrium price is observed at PQ and quantity at OQ. When the demand curve is shifted from initial demand curve DD to D1 D1, there is a shift in the equilibrium from PQ to MN. Thus, a new equilibrium price is at MN and quantity is at ON. However, the supply remains same in this scenario. Similarly, shift in the supply curve is the initial equilibrium price is placed at PQ and the quantity at OQ. As the supply curve shift from SS to S1, the equilibrium point also shifts from PQ to MN. Now what happens, after the shift, the new equilibrium price is at Mn and the quantity is at On. When the supply curve shifts, an increase in quantity leads to decrease in equilibrium price. There are two complex cases of shift in the equilibrium. Now what is complex case in these scenarios? That means there is a simultaneous shift in demand and supply curve that takes place. If the shift in supply is more than shift in demand curve, the equilibrium price would fall. So these are the two scenarios or the complex cases which would happen in equilibrium. That is, there is a simultaneous movement which is seen in the shift and in the demand and supply curve. Thank you.